Hello everybody, welcome to our channel. As you can see here, a lot of organized things regarding blades, rubbers, glues, different glues, boosters, Revolution number 3 glue, Nitaku glue, DHS glue, Malone blades, W968, the national version 1, our rubbers, as I said earlier, Hurricane 3 Neo national version, boosted twice, not once, twice. Our sponge for glue, our harder sponge in order to take away, as you can see here, the old rubbers from the blade. And we are going to examine how afterwards, after around 1 to 2 months, I will explain you how the different glue reacts in the same rubbers onto the same blade. So basically we are going to be comparing advantages and disadvantages of DHS to Nitaku to Revolution number 3 glue. We are going to be using the same exact blade, the best blade in the world by far, W968, the national version, the same pair of rubbers. The only thing that's going to be different is the brand of the glue we are going to be using. So, as you can see here, I love organization. We have to be very organized and very respectful for the procedure, like always. We have 3 blades. In this blade number 7 actually, we have DHS plastic cover because we use Taki rubbers, Taki Neo Hurricane 3 boosted ones here in this blade rubbers. Here we are using the Yasaka, very good, the Yasaka cover in the DHS W968, again national version with the national Hurricane 3 Neo rubbers again in this blade, on this blade. And here we have an empty blade, W968, okay, but we are going to use with rubbers and glue as well. What I did beforehand is that I boosted twice. How I boosted twice and why I boosted twice? I noticed in my game that I wanted to try something different and develop as a player. So when you want to develop as a player, sometimes you have to experiment and see your own limits. And I say, why not make the same rubbers I used in the past, boosted once, boost them twice, and then when they become really flat, like they are now, look how flat these rubbers are. I mean, you cannot even believe they are boosted, okay? The negative effects of boosting have disappeared and we have only the positive that have been absorbed by the rubbers. So this actually is not detectable. Nobody can say that these rubbers have been boosted, but I tell you, this is the truth, they have been boosted twice, and between each interval, basically the first boosting happened 10 of March and the second boosting happened 26th of April. So around 1 month and 16 days later, and now we have 17th of April, basically around 1 month. So in between, after our first boosting and the time we glue, now is 2 months. So you have to remember, if you want to boost twice Neo Hurricane free rubbers, the national version ones, the Malong I am using, you have to wait minimum 2 months. Why? Because you have to make sure your rubbers are as flat as possible before you glue them. Otherwise, they are going to peel off in the corners. So in order to avoid this, have your time, take your time and don't rush. So, as you can see, we are always very organized. We have our bin here, very important. We have our wet hankies, our Neotech small sponges. We have DHS, the cylinder one. We have our scissor, okay, our knife. We have here, as I said earlier, the same blade, W968, national version. Every single blade has its serial number. And I will also demonstrate you how we clean and how we peel off the old glue from the blades. Because these rubbers, they are old, they have been used more than 30 hours using a robot machine, which means that if 1 hour of robot practice is actually around 3 hours, so basically after 30 hours of robot practice, practicing with a machine, you have to take them away and not use them again, because the feeling becomes different and you don't want to go onto a competition or playing a game with rubbers that are not 100% perfect. So by saying this, recently I lost one tournament because I said, okay, don't bother, I go with these rubbers, although I knew it was forbidden. I did this major mistake and I lost the tournament. Why? Because I could feel something was going wrong. So basically the problem was that the rubbers already had been used a lot. So I should have replaced them. And that's why, as I said to you earlier, always make sure you do more than one pair of rubbers and one pair of blades. Basically, most of the times I do 3 or 2 rackets. I implement 2 or 3 rackets because it is very important for me to be ready. You don't know what is going on tomorrow. You don't know if the weather will allow you to do this procedure, because if it's raining, for example, and you have very big humidity, very large humidity, it will be much more difficult for the whole process to be implemented. So I always try to avoid doing this procedure when the weather is not allowing. So let's have a quick look. All these rubbers have been boosted either with the Dark Booster, the new Dark Booster of Simun booster, and either with a Haifu Yellow Booster. Okay, so we have been all these rubbers have been boosted twice between the interval of 2 months. So basically, after we boost, we wait until it becomes flat again, okay, and then we boost again. Please don't try to boost very fast before the curve has been as flat as possible, because you will destroy the rubber. I tell you this, I've done this mistake, so please don't make it, okay? And also, what we have here, we have this glue, the elastic, easy to peel off glue. These guys are doing very good job from Table Tennis Revolution, and I'm using quite a lot of the Revolution number 3 racket press. impressive stuff. You know, they really love table tennis and very good in what they do, so we have to give it a try. Here we have the Fine Zip, you know, the Nitaku one. Very strong glue. The difference, I mean, this is very soft, I would say. This is very hard glue and it dries off extremely fast, extremely. And we have something in between, you know, DHS glue. And we are going to be preparing 3 blades with exactly the same characteristics except the glue. The glue will be different. And after 1-2 months or in a short video, I will explain you the differences. So, before we start, we have to make sure we have our numbers written on a small piece of paper here, okay? So you can later make sure you can measure the weight of each blade and you can see the differences. So let's start off with, first of all, we have to take this a little bit here. Let's start off with, okay, with using DHS glue for this pair of rubbers, okay. Always you have to put glue here, a small layer, and always, for me, you put a line here, okay, like this, you see. You don't need anything else at this stage. And always, as you can see, you do this procedure up and down until it gets absorbed, okay? Make sure you do it, you know, not, if it's very hot, you must not delay the procedure so much, especially when we will do the Nitaku. You will see that we have to do it a little bit faster because it dries very fast, okay? Of course, Nitaku has the advantage that during winter, especially in Greece, you gain some time, you know, because you do the whole process faster. But as I said in our previous tutorials as well, please respect these procedures and don't rush, okay? Because if you rush, mistakes happen. And you don't want to destroy your $300 pair of rubbers. Basically, these are the most expensive rubbers in the world, and they are exactly the same like the ones, you know, top Chinese players use. All this equipment purchased from Table Tennis 11, the best in the business by far. And they are the only ones that share their knowledge, you know, and they really love table tennis. So, as you can see, here is our first rubber. Let's go this rubber, the red rubber. And then we are going to clean our rubbers, okay? So we are ready to do after the second layer, which is the most important layer, okay? The most important layer is the second layer. Remember it? The first layer is basically more for breaking the rubber, I would say, you know. So let's have a look now how we clean our blade, okay? can see, here is the procedure done, the red one. This is number 7 blade, okay? We are cleaning our hands, it's very important. We always have wet hankies, very important, okay? And the bin next to us. And here, as you can see, we have, these are the old rubbers, okay? And we take them, we leave them. And here is our blade, you see, top quality, I mean, very easy. And this is, we are using the hard sponge here in order to clean it a little bit. Okay. Make sure you clean it very good. Very important. Okay. And also here, I think it's clean, very good, top, okay, as you can see. We are going to be doing the same thing for our number 4 blade again, okay. I don't throw this on the bin because beginners can use these rubbers easy, so I give them, you know. Here you can use your hand as well a little bit, as you can see, but of course this hard sponge, you know, does better the job, you know. All this perhast from tabletennis11.com. It is very important always to be organized, very important, my friends. You know, I see some people do it very fast while they play table tennis in their clubs. I mean, this is forbidden. Definitely you're not going to do it perfect. I mean, if you search around on the web, all the top pro players, they respect so much the procedure. Some of them are even doing it in their living room. I mean, they are risking of damaging a very expensive table, you know, dinner table, but you know that's why they are legends, because they respect the sport and they respect the procedure, okay? You are very rarely you are going to see somebody doing this without being organized, you know. So we have our 3 blades ready, okay? Let's go now. Here we have our Nitaku, as you can see. We have a sponge inside here as well, okay? our Nitaku is going to be used here. Okay. We're going to be changing also our small spawns. Again, a little bit glue here, and we put our glue layer here, in the middle, always in the middle, okay? Okay. And now again, we spread it, try to spread it evenly and a little bit faster. As you can see, it is stronger and much more smellier than the DHS, you know. Some people, some Chinese top players, they prefer Nitaku, others use DHS, some European players use Revolution. It depends on the taste. Basically, I prefer both DHS and Nitaku. I haven't actually tried ever the Revolution number 3, but something tells me that it will be something in between, you know. We'll have to wait and see, okay? I always use 2 layers of glue in the rubbers and 1 layer in the plate. Always I try to do it, as you can see, evenly. And now we have to wait to be absorbed, okay? That's why you always need 2 sponges, you know, in order to, if you do a small mistake, automatically to fix it, very easy, if you have 2 small sponges, okay? You don't want to be searching for a sponge, you know. So now we have to wait for this to dry, okay? And then let's go now to check our Revolution number 3 glue. Okay, doesn't smell at all, you know. The most smelly one is Venitaku, okay, but of course it's not bad for the health, you know. Let's go. Okay, now a little bit, as you can see. And then we're going to be using one more well, basically I did a mistake. I should have checked it before. Of course, I don't think it will make a big difference, you know. Here, as you can see, one mistake that can happen to you. So what you're going to do when a mistake like this happens? Okay? First of all, don't panic. From the moment you have sponges next to you, you have no problem at all. Okay? You try to distribute and then after distributing you can use another sponge in order to take away easy, okay? This glue is smelly as well as Nitaku. It has a different smell, you know. I would say more wood glue oriented smell, but of course, you know, Again, as you can see, too much glue. I'll have to use another one. Had a small incident here. Okay, you can easily correct it. Okay, so always be prepared and always have your own space to do this thing. Okay. So we'll wait for it now. Okay. There's more damage here. Okay, I fixed it. Let me give you some details. These rubbers, in these rubbers I've used yellow booster. In these rubbers I used black HIFU, and in these rubbers I used again the yellow booster. So, yellow booster has been used in this and this rubber, in this pair of rubbers and this pair of rubbers. In this pair of rubbers we used the dark booster, black booster. So now let's go to prepare our number 7 rubber, but before we prepare it we have to measure the weight of the blade. It's very important. So this is the first thing we have to do. The first thing we have to do, measuring the blades before we finish gluing the rubbers onto the blades. And then we have to measure again before we put them, before we use the Revolution number 3 racket press. We have to make sure we know the weight. It's very important for us, so we know what is our recommended weight of our racket in our game, and then we can get a lot of information from this kind of analysis. So it's very, very important. Let's have a look. Our number 7 blade, the weight 89.25 grams. Let's tear and do it again. 89.20 89.23 grams. Okay, 89.23 grams. Okay, it's very, very important for us. to know the weight, always very important, okay? And now we're going to do our second layer first. Exactly the same procedure, but you have to do the procedure when you see that the first layer has been absorbed. So don't rush, take your time. And in these rubbers, but we had the small incident, we have to wait maybe a little bit longer, until it gets fully absorbed. Today is gluing day, so as I said earlier, this is the most important part, the second layer of glue is very important, and you have to give time again, okay, for this to be absorbed. Do not use some hair drying machines to speed the process. Don't do it, okay? You destroy your rubbers. You have to wait, okay? Wait. Perfect. We wait now. And after you finish doing the second layer to your rubbers, then you go onto your blade. Here, a little more, okay? Easy. This is the good thing with DHS. It is very easy to add the necessary amount. I have been using DHS rubbers for the last 3 years and I haven't looked back, the best. Okay, so now let's go to our blade, okay? Again, always in the middle, always. Remember that the black blue sponge always has to go on this side. Always make sure you apply corner, near the handle, is very important as well. Okay. So this is our one side, we have to wait. Now we can move on, not here, we can use our second layer. Of Nitaku glue. Here we have Nitaku Fine Zip. You see how thick this glue is. You see here, have to wait now. This is the second layer with Nitaku. Have to wait. Here we cannot, it hasn't yet dried, so we have to wait. Let's go here. Here we are ready for our second layer, okay? This is different glue compared to the others. It's very useful always to have a pad, so when glue when the glue falls, you don't have problem. That's why hankies are very necessary, as you can see here. We had a small issue. Here, these are not yet. Let's measure the weight of this blade as well. This is blade number 4. The weight of blade number 4 is 90.50 grams. Slightly heavier. And this is our 28.3 number, and is 90.96. So let's check it again. There, 90.93. I think a little bit heavier by 0.5 grams. Okay. So now we wait. And we have to do a second layer here. Okay. Remember always to do similar the procedure, and always to apply the second layer when the first layer has already been absorbed, and not by 100%, but I would say by 90 to 95%, you know. I don't like this because I used before. I take another one, easy. You see how fast I did it? Piece of cake. A little bit more here. A little bit more glue here. And use another sponge. Okay, let's use this sponge, not an attack one. Will do the job fine. And now we can use the smaller one in order to distribute it. Perfect. And wait for it to dry. And a little bit on the blade, a little bit. Now we have to jump here, a little bit Itaco glue, so we are ready. Now we have to wait for this to dry as well. And we move straight in our DHS rubbers. Okay, clean our hands and we are ready. Okay, so now we are ready. Okay. Always the letters have to face the handle, okay? Perfect. Always use your thumbs and the ruler. This special cutting surface. Now we'll go straight using glue. jumping in our next blade. Always make sure you distribute it as evenly as possible. Okay? We'll wait, and in the meantime we'll go in our other blade. Okay, we are ready again. DHS lettering has to be touching exactly the handle. Okay, always like this. Always in the beginning, you are using a ruler in the beginning, it's very important. You follow this procedure, okay? And then you apply pressure. Okay. It's very, very important. As you can see, it's perfect. And then you're getting ready. This is gone. We'll have our main. Okay. Perfect. We're using our metal glue again. Details matter a lot, so make sure when you do this process you dedicate enough time, okay? Most of the times I change my rackets every single 2 weeks. I switch basically in the same blade but with new rubbers, same rubbers always, and around 2 weeks time. I change rubbers. So my conclusion regarding the use of all these glues, all these different glues compared to each other, will happen at approximately around 2 months from now, you know. So we will have to wait. As I can see now, we are ready for this rubber as well. Okay. I am jumping from blade to blade regarding the transparency of the rubbers, you know. This is our first blade. Okay, let's quickly measure the weight. It's very important. Okay, this is number 7. Okay, the weight is 192.58 grams. I press it a little bit here. It's okay. Let's move on in our Nitaco 1 to finish. Okay. Again, the same way. The DHS lettering must fall exactly in the handle, okay? And then you have to apply the roller. Let's measure very fast the weight. The weight is 199.80. And just use very fast revolution number 3. Almost 200 grams. As I said earlier, this is because Nitaco glue is heavier, and also the black Booster Haifu is a little bit heavier, I would say comparing with the yellow. Okay? So we have to write the difference is because Nitaco glue is heavier than the DHS glue, and also the black booster is a little bit heavier than the yellow booster. Okay, but mostly the difference is because of Nitaco. Okay, Nitaco glue. Let's go now in our final. Okay, we are ready. glue. Yes. Okay. Let's use one layer. We spread it evenly. And we'll wait a little bit. In the meantime, let's have a look now to see our first the DHS combination, how it looks like, and basically even measure it again. Perfect, as you can see, perfect weapon, perfect, okay. Look, let's see the weight again. $192.59. So let's have a look. 192.56. So here is our racket here, and let's have a look now to see the Nitaku. How the Nitaku weights now. Perfect, as you can see. It feels heavier. Basically, I believe mostly it's because of Nitaku rubber, you know. It feels heavier, you know. Heavier, but you know, it definitely does the job. Let's see. 199.80. Exactly the same. Okay. I will leave this here as well. Okay. Wait a little bit. Always remember to clean your cups, when you use basically very large bottles of glue, always make sure you clean them for the next time you have to use it. Okay, so this is good for the next time. This is our Nitaku. Again, we clean it here, as you can see, very important. And this is our DHS. Again, we clean here as well. So the next time we have everything ready, perfect and ready for us. Okay? So now I think it's about time to check out our final plate. And as you can see, here I notice a problem. Okay? That's why you are loving our channel, because we are telling you everything 100% and not lying. So this is the Revolution glue. I think I did a mistake, probably. I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to be using a different glue, the DHS, I would say, because if I use the fine zip, it will become heavier. So I'm going to be using the DHS glue in order to correct this issue. Remember that these rubbers have been boosted twice, okay? And in between an interval of 2 months, okay? So we have to wait, put a little bit glue here as well. We have to glue here. We are lucky, but we didn't have bigger damage. "100% reality, my friends." Here, as you can see now, we are facing another problem, but we are going to give you another solution as well for this, because you see, my friends, we are the only channel, especially as far as Chinese table tennis has to do in our country, in Greece, that tells you exactly 100% the truth. I will be able to finish shooting here and say everything is perfect, but no, I'm not going to do it. I am telling you the truth. These are the blades we fixed a little while ago, and I just noticed that here there is a very small, area, but it hasn't stuck well. What we are going to do? Don't worry, don't panic. I have the solution. The same happens here as well. This is our retack blade, I think. Don't worry, I have the solution. Wait and you will see. In the rare case, or in the usual case, you will notice that after gluing your rubbers, you have a little bit air in the upper corner that is not actually affecting the majority of your rubber. Don't worry. Injection. This is the way we fix small incidents, I could say, while gluing the rubber. If, for example, we put less glue or we do a mistake, although it seems perfect, and it is perfect, actually it's not. It needs a little bit here. When you do the check yourself, it seems okay, so yeah, this doesn't need anything, okay? This is an Itaco one. Let's have a look in the DHS. The DHS here, a little bit needs a little bit here, needs a little bit glue, and we're going to use the system personally I have invented using an injection in order to penetrate the correct way onto our rubbers. So we use our glue, or we can take and we use it here. As you can see, this is something very smart, okay? But you can apply it and penetrates easy inside without causing damage and without opening your unstacking your rubber, basically, okay? Because the needle penetrates smoothly here, as you can see. This was a very topic, small area, okay? A bit more, okay. So this is something that you can use if you do a small mistake, you know, you don't have to re-glue. Just use needle and then you press, okay, and everything is perfect, okay. If you want, you can clean and you let it dry. So this is how we fixed this small incident. Don't worry, this thing happens, okay, and there's always a solution. And here, even here I see a little bit, not problem, but I would say, why not, you know. I can place some glue, it's not bad, you know. And also you can use your sponge a little bit here to clean the area. So when things like this happen, don't worry, because as you can see this is perfect blade, and also because I am looking for every single detail onto the blade, onto the rubber, you know. When I see something, I try to give the solution. And believe me, my friends, in our channel, we're not telling you lies, we're telling you the reality. And what it works for us, definitely will be working for you, 100%. And then we're going to be measuring again. You can put sometimes, if you want, a little bit, and press it a little bit here, okay, so it penetrates. From the moment you have a cover, especially on these rubbers, you know, from the moment you have the cover, everything is 100% safe. So let's measure the weight again to see if we have probably an increase due to these very little grams, you know. I don't think they make any difference, but let's see. Before it was 192.56 grams. Let's have a look now. 192.64 grams. So we gained 8 grams more, okay? After adding a little bit glue, and now we have another perfect blade, and now we are ready for the blade that we use. The Revolution should be ready. Let's have a look now. It did stack perfect, okay, and now perfect, and you can see and now we have a look. We put glue here. we are ready. So our test provided us with the result of having two problems, one major problem, but basically I believe it was my fault, it was not of the Revolution Free glue. I didn't place correct the glue, so from the moment I didn't place correct the glue, we had the issue, and we bypassed this issue by unstacking the rubber, using DHS glue in the surface of the blade, applying one more layer of DHS glue, but I don't think in the end it will make a little bit, it will make more difference in the weight, because the Revolution Free is very liquid style, I would say, like water glue. So if we would have applied the other Nitaku glue, it would be heavier, so we preferred applying onto the rubber the DHS glue. So hopefully it shouldn't make very big difference in the weight range, but we will see. Okay, now we are ready for our red rubber. Okay, let's have a look now. We're applying pressure. It is always very, very useful. Okay. Let's see the weight of our final blade. 195.05. So this is very, very important, what we see right now. Let me repeat again. The weight of the blade we have the problem is 195.06. 195.06. So, 1 what do we have here? We faced a problem, we caused the problem, and when I did the mistake, I said, okay, I'm not going to risk again doing the same mistake twice. I used automatically the DHS glue onto the blade and one layer of DHS glue onto the rubber. When I did the mistake, automatically I switched the glue. And I say, okay, from the moment I did the mistake using Revolution glue, I will use the DHS glue onto the blade and onto the rubber. As I read here in the Revolution 3, it says that it should be used 2 to 4 layers onto the rubbers, and basically we used 2. What this means is, it's not as thick as Nitaku, and as far as thickness, I would have to say, we have Nitaku, DHS and Revolution. So if you use 2 layers of Nitaku, you must use 2.5 layers of DHS and around, I believe, 4 layers of Revolution 3. So it was our mistake, it was my mistake, but we managed to bypass by using a layer of DHS in our blue-black rubber. This tutorial might be long, but it's very detailed, and there are some things that 100% sure are going to happen to you, and in the past you have already been faced with these problems. And we provide you the solution. You see, basically there's not something beneficial for you when we do a tutorial 3 minutes, 4 minutes, that has to do with some things very, very important. It's not a tactic. Here we are talking about the whole procedure, and this is something very, very important. And we have to explain you and tell you the truth. You have to see what we face when we glue our rubbers. Otherwise, it's a waste of time for you to watch it. So basically today, you watch me changing my rubbers, and you see what I face when I change my rubbers. And we provided you with the solution to these problems. Solution number 1, the injection. This injection system, the injector, easy, can go anywhere. Solution number 2, when you have a problem with a glue, automatically, very fast, you put another glue and you try to experiment. And today we experimented between 3 glues, and all these glues are very good, but all of them have to be used the correct way. But if you don't experiment, and if you don't go through these mistakes and this procedure, you are never going to improve your game. Never. You have to learn the procedure, you have to do it yourself in order to get connected with your equipment. I will be using all of these blades in the next 2 months. I am going to gather a lot of information. Our team also is going to try, and we are going to communicate together in order to get some more info regarding the performance as far as the glue has to do, because the only thing that changes is the glue. So, problems, don't worry, do happen and will happen while you are following the procedure of gluing. But you can face them. It's not something so hard. Let me explain you now how you are using the injection, okay? This is a brand new injection. As you can see here, the first thing you have to do before you use this injector onto your blade is to take a little bit glue from the cap, you know. You see here? Here is the glue, okay? I sucked glue from my glue bottle and I put it in my injector. The second step is I connect the base. Always remember, this has to be new. As you can see here, okay, this is very, very thin. What this means, this is the only way and the safest way in order to repair the small places, the small areas where you feel there's a little bit air and it hasn't stuck well and is in the corners. This solution is good only in the parts that they don't play major role on using your blade attached with rubber. This would never be correct way to fix a problem in the middle area, but it is an ideal way to fix a problem up here. So here, as you can see, I'm putting my injector here, okay, and I press, and as you can see here from the needle, okay, look here from the needle, as you can see, I get glue, and the glue is penetrated inside here, and this is very useful for me. Then I press and I use my sponge to clean. I use my roller and I have a problem here as well. Okay. And that's why it's very useful to have the Revolution number 3 press. Okay. I'm going to be using this. And we press it in the main area of our blade, in the main area of our rubber, and as you can see here, I don't know if you can see, by using Revolution 3 racket press, you can see here some glue is flowing out. This is what we want, okay? This means by tomorrow this will be perfect, okay? So let's have a look in our rubber blades as well. Everything is perfect here, as you can see, in all the corners, everything, top, don't need to do anything. Here, everything is perfect as well. Here, maybe I use a little bit. It's good, you know, because I think I see a small area here. We're using sponge to clean it. And now, again, we're using the racket press, the second racket press we have. Okay? In order to press it for 8 hours. And always make sure that your rubbers do not exceed the forbidden limit. Okay, it is very, very important, you know, to follow the procedures. By using this insecto, we managed to overcome the problem and we gave a solution. So remember, nobody is going to tell you about it, okay? This is very, very important to have just in case something goes wrong. And believe me, it does go wrong. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your love. I hope you like this analytical tutorial. We try to develop another way in our table tennis community by doing different things and thinking unconventionally. Most people would film a tutorial, would do everything perfect, and then you would go to follow the way they would explain in the tutorial, and you would face these problems. But we faced these problems for you, and we gave a solution. Let me sum up. What we did today was exactly what you would do when you would go to glue your rubbers. Some mistakes happened, some mistakes do happen always while we are doing this procedure, but there are solutions. The first thing you have to remember is that never try to glue your Chinese Taki Hurricane Free Neo national rubbers if they are curvy. Forget it. Wait for them to become as flat as possible. If you try to glue your rubbers when they are not as flat as possible and when they are curvy, then you are risking a lot of having a problem in the gluing process. Don't rush. Let them become as flat as possible. Don't worry about the benefits. You lose nothing. From the moment you have the plastic sheet cover, you lose nothing from the benefits of boosting. Then for me personally, because for every single player is different, for me personally, every single 2 weeks, basically, I need to change my rubbers. Not because they are unplayable after 2 weeks, but this is my game, this is the way I play, and this is the style I have in the table tennis game that is not allowing me to play with rubbers that have been used more than 2 weeks. Some people use their rubbers for 6 months. Some people never change their rubbers. They change them after 2 years. This is up to you. But for me personally, as far as the Chinese DHS Hurricane Free Neo rubbers have to do, that I have been using for the last 3 years, I believe it's like having a Formula One vehicle and thinking about changing the tires. If you have a Formula One vehicle and you don't change the tires, definitely you're getting yourself killed. So basically for me, DHS, the brand of the world champions, the best brand in the world as far as rubbers and blades have to do, we have the Formula One brand that you need to change your tires, and the rubbers are your tires. So you have to make sure you have to have brand new tires, and this is for me very, very important. Believe me, recently I lost one tournament because I said, okay, I don't have time to change rubbers, let's go and play with the same rubbers. And this is forbidden for me personally. After a specific amount of time, everything changes, and I need this feeling, I need the feeling that the brand new rubbers give to you. So, we did 3 blades. One blade we did it perfect, had no problem. The other 2 blades had problems, and we used the solution of this injector in order to penetrate a little bit onto the corners of the blades we had problem and fix this issue. Also, in one blade of the 2, we had a problem with during the gluing process, where we said, okay, we had a problem because I didn't apply correct the glue, and what we did, we said, okay, we used another glue, the DHS glue, and we gave the solution. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your love. Stay here in our channel. A lot of new features are coming. Communication always with you. Even sometimes, we might do a mistake. We recognize it. We like talking to you. We love your comments. We love table tennis. It's sport. It's a lifestyle. We are spending a lot of time not only training, but analyzing games, tactics, serves. We are going to do slowly a lot of things, from our heart, deep. Thank you very much for your love. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thanks for subscribing and the overall support and love for our channel. Don't forget, you can always achieve your goals the Kuz way.